Okay, everyone, sorry about that. I will try to wrap this up in a few minutes here just so that you can get to work on your essays. But I do want to point out and emphasize the importance of sticking to main ideas that support the overall thesis and kind of weeding out those really specific pieces of evidence that are going to make your summary longer than it needs to be or take the place of your ability to provide even coverage of all of those different main supporting points in such a short space. So again, that's one of the things that I think this paragraph here is doing particularly well, but I want to connect this back to what we were talking about in our discussion last week about the importance of distinguishing between main and subordinate points, and then beyond that, even more specific pieces of evidence. So remember that you have the overall thesis, which is a debatable claim, and then that is supported by reasons or subclaims, which are just a little bit more focused, also debatable statements that back up why the reader believes their overall central claim to be true. And those are the things you want to talk about in your summary, summarizing them very briefly in the thesis and then kind of going through all those supporting points in the body of the summary. However, any of the factual examples that a writer uses to prove those points that I just mentioned, those are going to constitute the evidence that the writer's using that you would not want to include in your summary. So for the articles that we've read, for example, if you were writing about Dawn of the Digital Natives, you would not want to include any of the specific numbers or statistics that Johnson cites. You do want to talk about why he says the NEA study is flawed, and then also why he believes online reading to be beneficial to society, but you don't need to provide any of the numbers about literacy rates or any of the specific data points or any of the math that he cites when he's talking about the flaws in the NEA study or anything that specific down to the facts. You just really want to focus on his main ideas. And then if you were writing about the Twitter article, for example, you don't need to mention any of the specific celebrities that he talks about. All you really need to talk about are the main points, what he says. You know, that Twitter allows people to take on a celebrity-like status, for example. So again, it's not so much what are the specific facts that he's talking about, but what are the main ideas that he's using those facts to prove. And then finally, if you were writing about in praise of oversharing, for example, you don't even really need to specifically mention Jeff Jarvis. I saw a lot of you talking about Jeff Jarvis in your summaries of that article, and while he is a very good example, you really want to focus more on the main idea. What is the main idea that Jarvis is there representing? And so you could just generalize about the fact that Twitter allows people who are going through difficult things like chronic illnesses to kind of connect with each other and have support with people that they wouldn't necessarily otherwise come in contact with, or something like that, just to focus on the main idea instead of the evidence itself. So if you have any questions about how to differentiate between the thesis, reasons, and evidence, or that overall main point, subpoints, and then specific facts, please do email me, because that really needs to be clear. That's one of our primary learning objectives for this assignment. So in general, going back to the discussion, if you're looking for some good examples, if you want to go through and read a few of your classmates, I thought that Kara and Emily and Daniel and Peter in particular, while not perfect due to some of the things that I've already mentioned in these videos, they all did a pretty good job, especially for where we are at the rough draft stage at this point. And so then hopefully you guys can pick up on some of the other things based on what I've said that everyone needs to work on in the drafts as you provide feedback to one another. So I do want to say just a couple things about the feedback that you're providing. The instructions for the feedback is here at the top of the discussion, but don't forget that you need to go through the text itself and provide in-text commentary using the comment feature in Word. You can do that by just going up to this review tab and adding a new comment. You can just highlight whatever you want to comment on and add one there. But then you also need to go through and write your summative end comment where you address the following prompts. And all of these questions here need to be addressed in complete sentences in a separate document, or at least typed at the end of their rough draft, one by one, in depth, so that they can really get the feedback they need to revise each different part of their summary. So heads up, several of you have already done your feedback this week and failed to answer these questions. So it's okay, you can still get the points for your reviews, but you need to go back and make sure that you've answered all the questions by Friday night so that you can get full points and that omission won't affect your grade. And then again, don't forget, you need to be commenting on classmates who have not yet received feedback from anyone else. So just looking through here quickly, it looks like Sophia has already received feedback, Tabitha, Jason, and Cassandra. So those 4 are off limits. Please do not reply to Cassandra, Jason, Tabitha, or Sophia because they have already gotten feedback from other people, but everybody else seems to be fair game. So please do make sure that you are giving the in-depth feedback that ties into what they're saying in text with those in-text comments, and also then connects those specific examples to some of these more summative feedback points that you'll touch on when you go through and answer each of these questions. So again, if you have questions about any of that, or if you have any questions about what you need to do for the remainder of this week, please let me know. And then don't forget, under content, we do have that discussion rubric in your course overview, and there are some specific guidelines for how I'll be grading your peer review workshop this week, because it's a little bit different than the general discussion. So you can see that in those 2 columns here. So make sure that you are checking that out. Okay, thanks for your hard work this week. And as always, just let me know if you have questions about anything. Thank you.